Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's three prakim Rambam, Hilchos Trumois, prakim Yud Aleph, and Yud Beis. We are starting with Perek Hasiri. The 10th chapter of the laws of Trumois is all about a zar meaning anyone who's not allowed to eat truma, who ate truma, and all of the different types of penalties, whether they ate it b'shogeg, whether they ate it b'mezid, to whom do they pay, etc., etc. This chapter has 26 halachas, beginning with halacha aleph. Says the Rambam, Zor sha'achal truma b'shgaga. Get zor meaning someone who's not allowed to eat truma, who ate truma b'shogeg, not knowing that he's doing something that he may not do. So the din is mishalim keren v'choimish. He has to pay the amount of the truma, and it's halachic fifth, as the Rambam is going to write at the end of this chapter, as we have in all other areas of halacha. Whenever we speak about a fifth, the fifth doesn't mean what you think is a fifth. It means, l'mashal, if something was worth 4 zuz, a fifth would mean he pays back 5 zuz. In other words, he pays a quarter of that which he ate. Now that you have, right, a quarter of 4 or 1, you add 1 to 4, you have 5. 1 out of 5 is a fifth. Now, afilu yadashi truma. Let's clarify shoygeg. Even if you knew that it was truma, and he knew that he is warned. Torah doesn't allow such a person to eat truma. So how is that a shoygeg? Now, just to make it clear, Chevra, a zar that eats truma is chayiv misa bidei shamayim. B'mezid. He doesn't know whether it's such a violation that brings about misa b'dei shamayim. That's the meaning here of a shgaga. In other words, what does mezid mean? Mezid doesn't only mean that I know that God told me not to do it. Mezid means I know what the punishment will be if I were to violate. That is also, he didn't know that he's a shoygeg. U'mishalim keren v'choimish. Halacha beis. Echad ha'oichel davar shadar kilechel. Ve'echad hashoyis davar shadar kilishtois. Ve'echad hasach davar shadar kilasach. All of that is included in the isur of eating chametz. Consuming is eating or drinking or anointing yourself, but it has to be something that is normally consumed that way. Shenemar v'lo yechalalu eskochi b'nei Yisrael. That's an extra pasuk from which Chazal learn l'rabos es hasach. Ve'echad ha'oichel truma temeya b'shgaga. Another detail. Have a truma temeya is not asur b'hana. It's the kohen's. The kohen is allowed to use it lahasak. So this isur isn't only for eating truma tohira that a kohen should have eaten. Truma temeya b'shgaga. The echad ha'oichel tohira, in both cases the same penalty. Mishalim keren v'choimish. Another detail. Ein achai b'choimish until he eats the shear of a kezayis, because we have a pasuk in Parshas Emor ki yoichal chodesh b'shgaga. And there's a general rule throughout the whole Torah. Now comes a big chiddush. We have this. This is not the only exception, but there's very few exceptions. Normally, whenever we have this concept of eating, is a kazayas minimum. Drinking normally is a revius. Not over here. And that is learned. That's a chazal. Forgot where they learned it from. Now you have to just another technical thing. How do you measure a kazayas of liquid? Is you put liquid in a cup, you put a zayas into that cup. The amount of liquid that's displaced by a kazayas, that's the shear of a kazayas. Okay. Now 1 second. Don't think that the shear of a revius is irrelevant. It will be relevant. When are you going to be penalized, keren v'choimish? When you drink a kazayas amount. Now, halacha gimel, ochal, v'chazar v'achal, you ate a little bit, not a shear. You stopped. You ate another little bit. Similarly, shasa, v'chazar v'shasa. The hefsek is that we're going to have the achilas pras. In yesh mit chilas achila rishayna. From when you started eating or drinking. Atzoif achila achreina. Kidei achilas pras. Machlokes and halach exactly what that would be, but just let's remember that l'Rambam, a loaf of bread is comprised of 6 eggs not 4, not 8, not 8. The Rambam, chilas pras is the time that it would take you to eat a part of a bread, which means half of a bread, which is the time that it would take you to eat bread in the volume of 3 eggs. What would that be? You have an halacha, all different shiurim. Think from mamash 3 minutes, 11 minutes, like minakotza, like it's very, very broad. What that means, b'poil mamash. Okay, but again, the ikar is to remember in halacha is that other rishonim hold that a lechem is 8 eggs and pras is 4. Then Rambam paskins that pras, which means a portion, which means half, is 3. Now look, this is the gavaldi. What's the shir, guys? Kidei shesiyas reviis. Opa. In other words, the amount that you have to drink to be in violation is a kazayas. But when it comes to measuring the time, it's not pras, but it's reviis. Then harei start from the kazayas. That's how it works. Halacha dal. Hatruma, trumas meiser. Trumas meiser, chavra, is what the Levi has to separate biblically from the meiser that he receives. Now, the Rambam is going to write a one-liner here, which is a chiddush. Bein shel demai. Oh, now demai is produce that prior to the takanas chachamim, not to trust the amaratzim, and therefore, even though there was never a time where roiv people did not separate trumas and meisers, but this minority of people, the amaratzim, that were not doing it, were substantial enough, miut, that was substantial, that they said, if you did not get your truma from a chaver, you have to suspect that they didn't remove some of the tithings, and that would include trumas meiser of the mai, but that's the rabbinic obligation. Bein shel vadai, which is midoiraisa, right? So truma is something that's doiraisa. Trumas meiser of vada is doiraisa. The mai is the one that Rabbanan here, the only one that Rabbanan. And chala, which has to be separated, doiraisa and bikurim. Now, guys, chala and bikurim has the same status of truma. Be'kulam mitztarfen lekazayis l'chayiv aleim. Either if a person ate it b'mezid, I just add these words. You're going to be chayiv misa. Misa means misa v'dei shamayim. Okay. Now, 1 second. What does this exclude? What case will you not be chayiv misa v'dei shamayim? The mai. Saying the mai is the chiddush here. Can be when you violated the rabbanan, you're going to be chayiv misa v'dei shamayim. Now, the chomesh, that could be, because even though eating truma b'shoigig, truma smeiser shel demais med rabbanan, the chachamim, when it comes to a penalty, can penalize you the same. Why is it that they are mitzdaref? Because they are also all called truma. Now the Rambam has to address the demai. Al trumas meiser shel demai, because it's only med rabbanan. K'moi she'ein chayavan al meiser sheni sheloi k'moi she'yizbar. Okay. Yes, mitzdaref. Why? Avol amru chachamim im lo yischayv elav chaymesh izal zolubah. Misa v'dei shamayim, they can't be mechayev you, but they found that this is something that if they won't penalize you, mamish like a doiraisa, people won't take it seriously. Ubefrat, when we'll learn more details about the mai, even when you buy produce from an Amaretz, for example, truma you don't have to separate, because that everyone separate. Once you don't have to do everything, people can b'chal be mezalzel. It's no, but you don't have to. You don't have to. But you do have to. You're going to pay a kerem v'chaymish. Okay. Now, I'm going to just add about truma about the ma'aser sheni. Ma'aser sheni is the same concept. When a person is mechalal their own ma'aser sheni, they have to add a chaymish midoiraisa. When it comes to ma'aser sheni, midrabanan, that I have to separate because I bought it from the Amaretz, and I want to be mechalal it, I don't have to add a chaymish. That's part of the kash. So by ma'aser sheni, you see clearly that even though by ma'aser sheni you have to separate from the mai, you don't have to add a chaymish. Trumas ma'aser, the penalty is of a chaymish. Halacha ochal truma b'meizid. Now, guys, misa b'dei shamayim does not exclude the fact that if you did it with proper hasra and edim, you'll get malchus. Ochal truma b'meizid. So im isru boy loikem, and now what? You don't pay. Not you don't pay a chaymish. You don't pay anything. Because as a rule, I know there are exceptions, but as a rule, a person never receives for the same violation, both yakir corporal punishment and financial penalty. Misa b'dei shamayim, yeah, and paying. Misa b'dei shamayim, corporal punishment, that for never. You never chayiv misa and malchus. Okay, so you don't pay anything, but that's only when you bepoil mamish, get malchus. But the imloy hisrubai. But if you're not going to get malchus, so now the rule is going to be like this: im hoisa tohira, if the food was tohira, mishalem akeren, but the eina mishalem es achoimish. Guys, the chiyuv of a choimish that the Torah writes is only written over there in Emor regarding eating truma b'shoigig. So the Torah doesn't mention about paying the choimish. The im hoisa temeya. Now, what would have the kohen done with that truma? Truma may not be eaten; it can only be used for fuel. So you have to pay. But what's pshat to pay? You're not paying a chaimish. You're paying the keren. But what is the keren? The shalom of the meyetzim. Why only? In other words, how much would it be worth if the person who's going to buy it indeed can only use it for fuel? A lot less. But that you have to pay. Now there are certain products that are so moist that they are not good for fuel. So if a person ate trumas te'enim, berries or pomegranates that are tummy, potter from all tashlumin, because shahadei einad oyam lasaka, so they have financially no value. Now halacha vav oichel truma chametz bepesach. So someone separated bread truma, gave it to a kohen. The kohen did not get rid of it. Right, there was no selling of the chametz then as we have today, so it wasn't ba'olam, and someone ate it. A non-kohen. Bein b'zadin, bein mishgaga, bein temei, bein tehoira. The din is going to be that patur min atashlumin. I'll tell you why. You know why? Because even though haTorah asa ki ilu hi b'reshusay, right, the two things, the fact that the Torah says this is Asur B'Hanot means that it has no value. So what will be the punishment? B'shoigig, keren v'choimish. B'mezid, when you're not going to get, guys, another thing, one thing, if you ate it b'hasra yakir b'mezid, you're going to get malchus. Actually, I don't know if you're going to get malchus because you're chayiv karas. Don't remember how the Rambam paskins. It's corporal punishment and payment you never do. Malchus. Okay, money you'll never have to pay. Now, afilu hifrish keshi matzah v'chmitza, even if when you separated the dough, it was not chametz. It became chametz during Pesach. Makes no difference. The fact is that chametz b'Pesach halachically has no financial value, and no financial value. Not like teruma tameya. Afilu the meyetzim el mashalom. Because why? Because it is asur b'hana. Therefore, ein loy damim. Okay, halacha zay. Avol, in contrast, with another type of chametz that is a big violation. Shoygeg v'achal truma b'yoyim hakipurim. Okay, very good. Okay, I want to remember. Only misas bezdin. Do we say misas bezdin? You're not going to have to pay. Ein loikin u'mishalmin. If you're chayiv kadis or misa b'dei shamayim, you do have to pay. Just make it clear. We don't say you only get one punishment. That's only when it's corporal punishment. That's what the Rambam paskins. Now, I'm saying that because on Yom Kippur, eating chametz on Yom Kippur, b'meisir you chayiv kadis, has nothing to do with tashlumin. You still have to pay tashlumin. But you're going to say it has no value. It does have a value. See, it's different. Chametz b'Pesach has no value. It's a chetza. Food on Yom Kippur, it says in Isser Gavra, I cannot eat. So therefore, if you ate that's one case. I just want to give you the end. The bottom line will be yakir b'shoigig. You'll pay keren v'choimish. You'll pay keren v'choimish. The mezid that Rambam doesn't have to say because we already know the rule. Whenever you have to pay keren v'choimish b'shoigig, the mezid it will depend. If there was hasra'ah and edim, you chayiv malchus, you pay nothing. If there was no malchus, if there won't be malchus, then you pay the keren. These are the rules. Now, if you ate truma that was perforated, now there's a rule, as we learned many times. Perforated means that it looks like, could be that a creature, snake, or took a bite out of it, and there was a possibility that it deposited venom. And because of that possibility of a sakana, the Chazal says you may not eat it. And we say many times, Chamira sakanta mi yisura, but it doesn't mean that it has no value. I'm not allowed to eat it. Or v'hashoyse yayin truma shenizgala, the same concept. Any yayin that's nizgala, in the times of Chazal, there was a chashash that a snake went and drank from it and deposited venom, and we're not allowed to eat it. Or let's go from inyan le'inyan, v'hasoch yayin v'shemen ke'echad. Now people are ein darkoi losuch b'yayin. And if you remember, when we started this chapter, the Rambam included l'Rabbi Zajac, the Rambam right, ve'echad hasoch davar, shedarkoi losuch. Yayin b'fnei atzma is not darkoi losuch. Shemen is. But when you mix yayin v'shemen, that's the chiddush. When you mix yayin v'shemen, just like you're going to be chayiv darkoi on the shemen, it includes the wine now. Okay? Same thing. If you drink shemen v'chometz ki echad, people don't drink shemen. People used to drink chometz. I don't know how they drink chometz. But now that it's mixed, just like people now will drink chometz, and they're going to be chayiv also for the shemen. Or if a person is kosas es achitim, a person who's chewing raw kernels of wheat, that's something that people normally do. Like goima sachometz, you swallowed vinegar. All of these cases, if a person is mamish satisfied. Remember in halacha, achila gasa, and there's two types of achila gasa. There's an achila gasa that is not called eating, because when a person comes to a certain level of I'm so satisfied, eating more is pashut disgusting. V'kotz b'mezoyno means he's disgusted. And v'hoisev al sove b'achilas truma. Now here's interesting. Here we don't say he doesn't have to pay the keren. He has to pay the keren. What does he not have to pay? The chomesh. Because in the parsha that introduces by truma eaten by a non-kohen, he pays the chomesh. The Torah says ki yoichal and lo sheyazek atzma. But on the other hand, you can't say he ate something that had no value. This food had value, so the keren you have to pay. Chewing raw kernels of wheat is darkoi bekach. Chewing raw kernels of barley is eina darkoi bekach. Or not eina dark, it's mazik. But on the other hand, I'll tell you what, it's Michael Behema. On the other hand, you have to pay the value. Halacha tes. Zor shabala sheizafin shel truma. Prunes. Speaking about someone who did not chew it, he swallowed the prune, and it came back up. He vomited it up. Comes another person, and he ate that prune. Bishgaga. So it is like this. The first guy, listen to what happens. The first person is Meshalem Keren V'Choimish, because he ate Truma while he's a non-Kohen B'Shoigeg. Now, once he pays for the Keren V'Choimish, he owns it. He owns it. And therefore, and it doesn't have a din of Truma. And it has to do with the fact that the first guy had Hana'ah. Now, it doesn't have a din of food. Why doesn't it have a din of Truma Yakir? Because it's disgusting. So it loses the Kedusha of Truma. What value does it have? People can use it for fuel. But who owns it? The first guy. Why does the first guy own it? Because he paid the Keren V'Choimish. So V'Hashem Mishalem the Meitzim L'Rishoyin. Guys, every halacha here is gavaldik. Halacha yud. Hamaychalas payalov. If a person is feeding his workers, or a person is feeding his oirchav, his guests, and he does it by accident, truma. They didn't know. Now, guys, who did the sin? Listen, everyone is a shoygig. Who did the sin? The ones who ate it. They taka ate it b'shoygig. So they, hey, mishalom keren v'choimish. B'pnei shehem kishoygigin. But now there's something else. We're speaking about someone, even by guests. If they're paying keren v'choimish, they have to get something, because they were given a gift. They were given a meal by the balabas. He didn't give them the meal. Turned out he gave them something that he's not allowed to give them. So he owes them something. What does he owe them? It's amazing. The balabas must pay them the meisu dasan. And you know something? It's not so simple. Truma, b'chlal, is less expensive because that's the way the market works. Less demand. If there's less demand, you won't get the same number. So truma that's being sold on the market, like from one coin to the other, is going to be worth less than chulin. He has to give them chulin. They don't have to. He doesn't have to pay them a chaimish, but he has to pay them the meisu dasan. Should the mei hachulin yisayden the bnei truma sha'achlu. Gewaldig. It's amazing. They ate and they had hana. They have to pay the worth of the truma nechaimish to a coin. He has to pay them because since he gave them a meal, but they didn't have hana from the meal. Why did they not have enough from the meal, Yakir? Because a person halachically doesn't have hana from something that's asur. It's amazing.
Why doesn't he pay the fifth?
Huh?
Why doesn't the guy who gave him the food pay the
because
fifth?
Because the penalty of the fifth is a biblical penalty on the person who ate. He didn't eat it. You have to know all these dinim. He caused them to eat, but causative is not going to be mechayiv your money. Every halach here is a mountain. Okay. Now the point is, why does he have to pay them? He can argue, why? I gave you a meal. Because shadavar ha'asur nafshi shel adam chata mimenu. Chata means repelled. In other words, even though when they ate it, they enjoyed it, now that they discovered, oh my God, it was truma, they had no hana. And so he gave them something, but he didn't give them something. So give it to them now. It could be, guys, that the mei chulin is more than the keren v'chaimish. But the keren v'chaimish has to be paid from the worker or from the guest to a coin. Halacha Yudalef. How great is this? Hamachal is banav aktanim. A non-coin, same thing. Non-coin is feeding truma that he should not have, he may not, but to his minor children. Or to his avadav, and here it's ben gedolim ben ktanim. Or v'hoichel trumas chutz la'aretz, which is only truma midrabanan. Or v'hoichel oy hashoyse pachus mikazayis. Or v'nazir sheshagag v'shasa yayin shel truma. Here we go, guys. Let's go to the same concept we just had in the previous halacha. Since a nazir may not drink wine, it's not considered as if he drank it. What's going to be the kasha between this din and what previous din? The problem will be with Yom Kippur. That's where everyone is going to break their heads. By Yom Kippur, we didn't say that. We said that even though it's also to consume anything on you do pay a keren v'chaimish. Here they consider it different, but let's leave it open. Or v'hashoyis shemen, we just said that even though when shemen is mixed with chaimitz, shemen is considered something that's drinkable, not by itself. Basoch es hayayin, as we learned also above, it's not darkoi b'kach. So it's not pshat that there is no penalty. No, there is no chaimish penalty. But you ate up value from the coin. You have to pay back to the coin. No, it's the b'mezid and the b'shoigig will be the same. And again, by b'mezid, you only pay when there won't be malchus. The moment there's malchus, you don't get malchus. Ain't like in a mishal. Halacha yud beis. Bas kohen that was married to a Yisrael, or she wasn't married, but let's say she had a biyah as a bas kohen to a man who she may not have a biyah with, which means that going forward she cannot eat truma, and she ate truma. So is she someone who can eat truma? No. But the parsha in Emor that introduces a zor who eats truma, the shoygig, is chayev or chaimish, does not include her. Mishalemes es hakeren ve'ena mishalemes es chaimish, because she's not legamrei zora. Isha shoyse chelas v'truma, because let's say she's married to a kohen, Eishes kohen, that's the case, and v'amrullah, and they tell her meis bailech, or unbeknownst to you, he gave you a get. These things are possible. Let's say if she sent a shliach lekabbalah, she thought that the shliach lekabbalah will only get the get from the husband in a week. So today she's eating this. No, you got it already. Or and as he is allowed, an eved of a kohen, and v'amruloi, while he's even having a meal, meiser abcha. But let's go down. It's not so simple. Even when meiser abcha, if the heir is a kohen who can eat truma, then Yerusha happens right away. Then the eved will be allowed to eat truma. But the case was that v'niach yoresh eina machal. Mashal, the man, the kohen, had daughters. They're all married to non-kohanim. So the daughters yarshin, but they are married to a Eshes Yisrael. So the eved of that Eshes Yisrael cannot eat. Oy, that your owner Machar Chali Yisrael. Oy, Nesan Chaloi, he gifted you. You don't belong to him anymore. Oy, Shichrechecha, you are emancipated. V'chein kohen shoya oichel. And now he discovered that he was never allowed to eat truma because he's a ben gerusha, he's a chalol midoy raisa. Ben chalutza makes him a chalol midrabanan. So in all of these cases, again, harei elo mishalvim esakeren bulvad. Now, why do they have to pay the keren? Because they ate that which does not belong to them, but they are exempt from the chaimish because while they were eating yakir, they were muhzak that they can eat. Now, trumas chametz. Oh, your erev Pesach. Look at the logic over here. Here, harei elo pturim el shalom all together, because since zman habohu, because when people are coming towards the last hour when you can eat, people are hopping at ein and eating. So therefore, nechbezu le'echol v'lo batku. What logic is there? I just want to know the words are that it's considered an oinus gomer. Every halach is very, very important. Just to know, stop that sometimes when it comes to dinner mamanis, I don't care if you're an oinus gomer. Sometimes that's, oinus gomer doesn't always, I'm driving a car, but oinus gomer I bring into your car. Oinus gomer is only a good taina for you not to be angry at me, but it will never exempt me from paying. Here we're saying they're also potter even from the keren. Now, the kulam shehoyse truma lo toich pian kishiyodu shemasurum lecho. No one is allowed to say it's already in my mouth. Once you find out, you're no longer a shoygig. That's called amazing. And now, what do you do? Hadei elul yifloit, you have to spit it out. So when we said before by the prune that the person swallowed it, that's something else. Now you own it. You have to pay the keren v'choimish. You own it. It's not considered food. When something is in your mouth, it's considered food. Gewaldig. What you're saying, Yakir. Good. Halacha Yud Gimel. Hoya oichel while you're eating. Now there's two scenarios. The first two cases is that they told him that now you became tamei. Now, which this is important. In other words, when you started eating, you were not tamei. L'mashal, there was a dead sheretz, and a kid behind you touched the sheretz to you. There was an halachic touching to one of the shmona sheratzim. In middle of eating. It's now you have to stop, or the tmeisa hatruma. Now the truma became tamei. Or they tell him something, not that now there's a problem, that there was always a problem. That what? Tamei ho yisa, oy tamei ho yisa hatruma. Great. Oy noida, he discovers that what he's eating is tevel. Or ma'aser ishen shalonitru trumasai. Oy ma'aser sheni v'hegde shalonivdu. Oy sheta'am tam pishpeish l'toich piv. Huh? Yeah, he's eating. In other words, guys, the last case, just to know, is a kohen. A kohen is eating truma. One would think that what? That don't spit it out. Don't spit it out because you're going to be ruining the truma. Harei lo yifloitu. Gavaldik. Next case. Now, I'm thinking every halacha here is a mountain. Shtei kupos, just to know clear, this is clear. The first case of halacha Yudalid is dafke by truma midrabanan. It has to be that way. And all of the noisei kelim of the Rambam say that, even though the Rambam doesn't write it. This case, this is the famous Mishnah. You have two containers. one is truma. And you know which one, the one to the right. One is chulin. That you know. And now, nafla truma l'toich achas man. And we're not even talking about the dinam of bittul guys by truma. Once you have 100 ratio to 1, then there was not that ratio, which means that if the truma would have fallen into the chulin, that whole container now is the mai. The mai meaning it's a mixture, and only a kohen can eat it. Problem is, you don't know if it fell into the chulin. Maybe it fell into the truma. Halavayit fell into the truma. So the din, if it ain't yadua le'ezem nafla, we are allowed to say hareini oimer l'toich shel truma nafla. And I'm saying this gewaldike kula is only because it's truma d'Rabbanan. And by the way, so says the Rambam explicitly in Perek Yud Gimel. Just he doesn't write it over here. Now comes a new case. New case, Yakir. This case can go back to truma d'Oraisa. You have two containers, but forget about the mixture. You don't know which one is truma. You know one of them is truma. And comes a zor and he eats one of them. What are we learning in this chapter? That a zor that eats truma, generally, b'mezid when there's no malchus, keren, b'shoigeg, b'doiraisa, keren v'chaymish. Here there's a doubt, maybe he didn't eat truma. So what are we discussing over here? We're discussing a chiyuv mamanis. By a chiyuv mamanis, what do we normally say? And therefore, hareza pater all together from tashlumin. And this can even be by truma doiraisa. See, that's the challenge in halacha yudalid, because the truma of the shtei kupais that we can say this din, the hareni oimer, we only say by a derabana. By a deraisa, we wouldn't say hareni oimer. But in this case, it goes even at deraisa. Why? Because now, but there's one thing over here. That is when it comes to money. But what about when it comes to Isser? Only one was eaten. Now there's another left. If the other one is left, we have to say the other one is truma. L'chumra. In other words, when it's a Isser beheted, we have to be machmir. When it's money, there's a concept of amoitze mechaver. Now, ochal acher es hashniya. So now afu pater. Why afu pater? Because each one, it's not the same guy. Each one can say, I ate up the chulin, right? And amoitze mechaver all over ayah. But if echad es hashneyem, he cannot say he for sure ate the truma. For sure he has to pay. But what happens if one container has less value than the other? He gets to pay the lesser value. And what does he have to pay? As we learned in the beginning of this chapter. If he had been mezid, kenen, im shoyge kenen v'chaymish. Allah chetezvav, oichel es ha'chaymish b'shgaga, ha. He already paid the chaymish. Now we're learning a new din, guys. The chaymish that you have to pay biblically has a din of truma. It becomes mamish like truma. It has kedusha of truma, the money or the value of it. And therefore, if someone again ate the chaymish, so that he ate a truma b'shoigeg, because shahachaymish kakenen l'chol. And by the way, that makes it clear. The kenan also, it has kedusha like it's miskadesh. It becomes holy. Another din. Here we go. That's it. There's only one exception. What's the one exception? If someone plants truma, and when you plant something, we're speaking about that which completely disintegrates in the ground, as what normally happens. So there's a derabanan, dekachumra, that whatever grows is like truma. Whatever grows. They didn't make it over here. That if you planted this keren or this chaimish or both, then we say gidoleim chulin. Gavaldik. Truma regila. Gidoleo. I want to say clear. That which grows out of the seeds of truma, since the seeds completely disintegrate, zaroi kala. We learned this in Chasidus. Even though we're going to learn in the next chapter that midrabanan yakir, that which grows cannot be eaten to zarim, but that's a din derabanan. Derabanan did not make it on this penalty money. Another case, someone ate it b'shoigeg or b'mezid. He says, "I'm moichel, ain't a moichel." Why not moichel? Because if it only would have been a din of mamonis, the kohen can be moichel din of mamonis. It's all connected. Now that we are saying that the Keren and the Chaimish are Truma l'chol davar, can I ask you a question? Can a kohen take Truma that he got and say, I'm moichel the Kedushas Truma? Can, same thing, it can be moichel. But you should know in other areas of halacha, v'chol ha-mashalom es ha-keren, fakert, even by Truma b'mezid. Whenever the penalty is only to pay the Keren, then there is no Kedusha in the Keren. And therefore, Harei HaTashlumin is chulin. And therefore, Im Ratzah Kohen Limchal Mincha. That's a big rule. Because whenever you have to pay Keren the Chaimish, not only the Chaimish, the Keren has a din of Truma. Whenever for eating Truma, you only pay Keren, whether it was B'mezid, when there's no Malchus, or the other cases we had in this chapter, like Halacha Yud Aleph. Right, you ate less than a Kavaldi. Because since it has a din of chulin, if it's chulin, the kohen can say he ate of a specific kohen. The kohen can say, "I'm moichel, you don't have to give it back to me." If the din of the money is chulin, of course the kohen can be moichel. If I owe the kohen $100, or if I owe you $100, you can be moichel. You can be moichel. You got it now, Vayter. Halacha Tazayin, Bas Yisrael she'achlu truma. And now, when she was allowed to, now she got married to her. When she's not allowed to. She's not allowed. And she married a kohen. If she ate no one's truma yet, which means what would happen then? She would decide to which kohen to pay it. You see, if she ate a specific kohen's truma, she has to pay it to him. If she ate it from someone's grain heap prior to the owner gifting it to a specific kohen, then she gets to pick to which kohen to pay it to. She's married to a kohen. This is great. So you know what she can do? She can pay it to herself. But it already belonged to another kohen. You have to pay it back to that kohen. Just because now she's married to a kohen doesn't change anything. What?
Wait, she pays it to herself or to her husband?
Are you married? Like, are you looking at me? I'm looking at you like, what's wrong with you, Kevin? It's not the same thing. You know, the Torah says, Kol ma shekana isha kana baylo. Whoever wrote that was laughing. He was laughing. Because what does it help if kana baylo? What does that mean?
Got it.
You know what I mean? We all know what it means. That's how it works. That's the way of the world. And thank God for that. This is so gavaldic. Whenever you pay Kedem v'chaimish, only the Kedem is paid l'ba'alim. The chaimish, which dinar ketruma, you get to give to any coin you want. This is amazing. So she gives it to herself, which means she gives it to her husband. And now she knows there's another $5 in the account. Honey this, honey that. Halacha Yud Zayin. Lo yispika l'shalom achin is garsho. Now, benkach einem shalom is la'atzmo, because now that she's divorced, that's it. She's back to Abbas Yisrael. Hadei kemish lo nises l'koyim aloma oilam. Halacha Yud Ches. Kol oichel truma. We have a way to go in this chapter. Kol oichel truma bein mishagrim amazed. Einem shalom yakir listen elam in hachulin hamisukanim shoitziu mehen truma sumaisres. Aha. Very good. First of all, guys, to make it, you cannot pay with money. You have to pay with food. Remember this. What type of food must you use? How much value of the food? A lesser amount of value. We said already, because the truma has a lesser value. But the point is, you don't pay with cash. You have to pay with produce. Umeshalmin, you could pay min aleket, min ashikha, min apeya, min ahefker. It's produce. Umemaiserishin, that's misukanim, which means shenitlu trumasoi. Here's a detail. As we had in Pede Gimel, this Gavaldic rule, that there are times that if a person separated Maiser before Truma Gedoyla, not only does the lady have to give Trumas Maiser, but he has to compensate to the coin that which the coin should have received. But if the person separated through Maiser when the produce was still on Shibalin, which means there was no Chalois Chiyuv Trumas at all, even though the separation is valid, my sedation is my sedation. There, all that needs to be done is for the Levi to give Trumas Maisid, and he doesn't have to give up the Truma Gedoyla. In other words, it's called Chulin Misukanin. Another din, Umeshalmin Mimaisa Sheni Vehegdeshenivdu. Even though they were not redeemed kahalacha, this l'chayra means even though the chaimish was not paid, because there's another niftu shaloi kahalacha. If you remember, and that is that Maisa Sheni says v'tzarto hakesef. Tzarto hakesef means that you cannot redeem it even on a block of silver or on a simon. Can't do that. And if you did it, it's nothing. The shaloi kahalacha l'chayra means you didn't pay the chaimish. Point is, you are giving chulin misukana. Umeshalmin min achadosh ala yashan. This year, from last year's, avol ein mishalmin min al she'em minoi. It has to be the same type of truma that you ate. Shenema v'nasan l'koynes hakodesh, and that means ka kodesh she'achal, and not a different product. Halacha yutes. Ha'oichel kishurim shalosh shvis. If you ate zucchinis, cucumbers, from the 6th year, but on the 7th year. You ate it on the 7th year, which means you can't replace it now because this year is Shemitah produce, and Shemitah produce cannot be used. Why not? Because you have a choiv. One is not allowed to pay the choiv from pay the shvis. So then so if you would be able to pay with money, you would pay money. Now that we had Allah Yud Ches, when you eat truma, bein b'shoigeg bein b'meizah. Whether what you're giving, dinoi ketruma, whether what you're giving dinoi kechulin, even when you ate it b'meizah, it has a din of chulin. You have to pay with produce. So yamtin like shoy not shomos shvis, and only then v'yishalom lehem. She'eni yochel hashalom chayvim pay the shvis k'may she'is bar b'mekayme, like we said that you can't pay your chayv, as we're going to learn in the Shemitah Perek Vav. Halacha chav. Ochal truma tameyam. Mishalem chulin, but here's the word. Since you ate tameya, in other words, it doesn't change halacha yud ches. You ate truma tameya, what do you have to pay, guys? Again, it's not about the value. You only have to pay the value of the mei hasaka. Once I ate produce that if it would not have been tamei, let's say chulin, it would have been worth $100. Truma, it's worth $80. Since it's tameya, it's worth $5. But those $5 have to be paid from produce. Chulin produce, it could be bein tamei men tohayim. But ochal truma tohayra, whatever the value is, mishalem chulin tohayrin. Navim shilam chulam tameyim, bein mishoyim memezid, post facto, tashlum of tashlumin. And let me go further. And what's the din of the produce, Yakir? If you ate the truma tameya, bishoygeg, so what's going to be the din? No. So this has a din of truma. So you're giving him weiter truma tameya. Makes a big difference, because if what you're paying back has a din of chulin, if you ate it the mezid, then at least it can be eaten. And if this kohen doesn't want to eat chulin tameya, because with Rabbanan, that's another whole parsha, if you eat a certain amount to become tamei, he can sell it. If the sinner did it b'shoygeg, which means that tashlumin has a din of truma, and he gave chulin tameim, what is he doing? He's giving now truma tameim. But with the Rabbanan, he messed him up, because that's what I'm saying. What he gave is given, and he has to give it again, and that's a knas. It's amazing. Allah chafalo. I thought we have enough time, but this perek is mamash unbelievable. Ochal truma chaver, the trumas chaver, which means that this person is makbid on the dinam of tumantara mishalom loy. Then you give it back to him. To eat trumas ha'aretz, if you ate it, normally you give it back to the person from whom you took it. What are we saying again, Yakir? That when you ate it b'shoygig, the din of your payment is truma. You're not allowed to give truma to an ha'aretz. So mishalom l'chaver. But 1 second, who do you owe the money to? To the owner. You can't just pay it to the chaver. So you pay it to the chaver. The chaver gives you its value. And now you give to the owner the money. But you can't pay money, you have to pay with produce. Why? Because of the rule. As we just learned, so you're a non-kohen. The owner is your zayda. What's that? Your zayda is a kohen. Yeah, your mother's father. And Then meis avi imoi, which makes you the heir. So we say you don't get to keep it. By gezela, you don't get to say, I'm paying myself. See, by the case of Allah Tez Zayin, it's different. Here you gazel, you got to pay it. You give it to another heir of the Zayd. You didn't gazel it from him. You yarshin yakid. A yarshin truma. I'm a Yisrael that owns it. I can't say that if I eat it, I don't have to pay myself. No, I can't do that. Or a balchoiv shegava truma v'choiv. He owns it. Or a woman that collected truma and they ate it. So you can't say, oh, it's mine. I don't have to pay. No, mishalem keren the choimish lekoyin chavet. But here again, that koyin chaver doesn't own the money of it. So v'hachaver noislim damim. And you get your money back. It's amazing. It's amazing, these halachas. Let's go back. Halacha of Gimel. I'm going of truma v'layachol. Now, guys, let's make it even juicier. What's the din of a ganef? A ganef, if he's caught, has to pay kefil. So he gave it v'layachol. First of all, mishalom tashlume kefil l'ba'al. That's step number one. Now, the yesh lo l'shalom etimei truma, which is less expensive, because that's what he ganved. The produce of truma has a lesser amount of value. You know what's important, Yakir? When we learned in Halacha Yud Ches that if you eat truma, you have to pay with produce. That's only if you ate it. If you didn't eat it, that's the word. You don't have to pay with produce. You can pay the mei truma, Gaval. But Genova va'achola, now you have to put all the penalties together. You have to pay 2 kenens and a chaimish. Kenen v'chaimish has to be paid menachul, and that's halacha yud ches. And the other kenen, because it's taganif, and we just paskin that for the geneva part of it, you can pay directly with the mei truma. You can pay from the mei truma. Ha, halacha chav dalit hoy sa truma heg. Could be kesed and the mei, and it can even be the mei truma. Halacha chav dalit hoy sa truma hegdish. Which means, guys, a kohen was magdish's truma, and the Rambam is going to write explicitly that normally we say ain't isur halal isur. Yes, over here, because truma is muter lekahanim. Hegdish is even asur lekahanim, so it's more kedusha. It was chal. So now you have to add meila. Look how many penalties. So truma was hegdish, belonging to the Berek Habayis, and this chacham God forbid, chacham saginar ganvit, and he ate it. What now? This is good. Let's learn the dinim. Eina mishalom tashlumi kefil. Why? First of all, she'ein behegdash tashlumi kefil, as we learned to be mekayim. No, there's no kefil when you got the hegdash. But avol mishalom keren ushnei chamashim. Why yakir? If you ate it because me'ilah. In other words, chaymesh, one chaymesh because you ate truma, one chaymesh because you ate hegdash. This is so gewaldig. Now, ulami mishalem. No. The point is that even though ugenava, we don't add the kefil because of its hegdish. Now, imoisa bakizayis, the liability will depend on the size of what happened. Then the ein bashava pruta. That's important. What's the ein bashava pruta? Because remember the dinay meila yakir is only when there's a shava pruta. The dinim of our pedic is not shayach to the value. It's only about a kezayis. You see the difference? So then mishalom lekayhanim. But the im yesh shava pruta, which means there's meila. If it's meila, who does it belong to? It belongs to God, to the Berek Habayis. Now we say bein sheyesh kezayis, bein she'ein ba mishalom lehegdish. In other words, since you have to pay for meila, even though this is amazing, even though there's no kezayis. Once it's chashuv for me'ilah, I don't care about that. It's less than a kazayis for the truma. Halacha chafei mepnei ma'achol isur hegdish al truma altogether. Right? Ein isur halal isur. We just spoke it out by heart. Pnei shatruma asur l'zar u'teres l'koyin. When you're magdash it, it's not only asur l'zarim, even asur l'kahanim. That's called the isur moisa. Lefikach moisa ba isur afal yisrael. Al derech shubiyan milchus biras asuris and michulam asores. So there are 3 rules. Pasachas, choilul, moisa. That's an isur moisa. Final halacha above. Now, hagoysel truma v'achala. And I want to add something. We're speaking about someone who stole the end of Parshas Vayikra, Gizela, and the owner says you ganvit, and the guy was koifer, and the guy took an oath. Remember that din? They swore that they don't owe money. The end of Vayikra. And then when they do tshuva, the chayv to pay keren, b'choimish or karban hasham, gizelois. That's the case. So it's another choimish. So here we say mishalim keren b'choimish echad. That's it. Because shachoimish echayva mishum truma. We say this is the final chiddush. Yotza bo yidei gizeloi. Because before we said in halacha chav dalid you have to pay two chumshin. One choimish of truma, the other choimish of hegdish. Here we don't add one on the other. Here they combine together, and that's the why. You should pay a choimish for the eating truma, right? And a choimish for the din of nishba l'sheket. The answer is because it says in the pasuk in Emor v'nasan la'koyin es hakodesh. Chazal learned this pasuk means ein chayv ela b'choimish al kodesh mulvad. Furthermore, if one guy gazeled it and he gave it to another person, what did we learn before by the worker, remember, or the guest? So ha'oichel is going to be the only one paying the keren v'choimish. Givaldik. And now, basic rules. Kol makom shomarnu mishalom keren v'choimish. Well, how do you define a choimish? We spoke about before. Machal shavar ba mishalom shavar chamisha. That's a choimish. A choimish is really a quarter. Memisha achal v'chol makom shomarnu keren l'shnei chamashim. Same thing. You don't add a choimish on the choimish. It means if you stole something worth 4, if a choimish is 1, 2. We don't say now that you have 5, you have to add a choimish on the 5. No, the second choimish is like the first choimish. Mishalom shava shisha. Umakim shamanu shnei keramim v'choimish. What will that be? Not the choimish akid on the double. No, it's 2 keren and the choimish. If it's 4, so 2 kerens is 8. We don't say the choimish on the 8. We say the choimish on. Oh no, the choimish on the 4. So now how much will it be? 9. Mishalom Shabbatisha. Well, oilam ein mishalom ella. Another rule. What happens if there's a fluctuation in prices? Lefi damim shoyse shava b'shas achila. Bein shehuzla b'shas tashlumin bein shehukra. It depends on the value of when you ate it, not when you're paying. Chevra, to be continued.
Thank you.
So guys, I was preparing this yesterday. Pashit, it's such a big pedic. Like we should have used an hour. It's like a big. And tomorrow we'll learn the next 2 parakim.
Thank you.
Like by Hilchas Yibum, we did the same thing.